What was your reaction to this story in the Sunday Times? Were you surprised by it, or is this something that you've kind of had on your radar for a while?
Well, I mean, frankly, I was angered. I was angered because I'm a proponent of measured engagement with China. And I know there are many business folk in China, and probably many in the Chinese Communist Party, who will be angered that what is a relatively open dialogue with the UK has been polluted by an act of, frankly, stupidity by some element of the Chinese security apparatus, presumably with senior approval. So I was angry. Um, Look, Parliament's been under assault by foreign states for some time. We've just we've just seen passed the National Security Act in response to, frankly, a more up-to-date understanding of what hostile states are doing to us. And foremost amongst those, perhaps not as noisy or as active as Russia, is China. And we have seen China acting in the online space, cyber, disinformation. And we've seen an awful lot of this notionally commercial lobbying in Parliament and engagement. And we've seen thuggish attendance at events trying to intimidate those asserting their rights in China. But this is something different because this is higher grade human intelligence work by the looks of it. And I think the Justice Secretary is right. We better wait and see all the detail. But starting at this end of the process, it looks pretty serious as an escalation.
And is it time to have a sort of root and branch review over access to Parliament? We know that many MPs and peers as well have in their gift the ability to give some passes to people. Obviously, they give passes to people in their team, but sometimes they give passes to other people. Sometimes they're people from the world of public affairs. There are sort of rules on lobbying, but that's a way of people kind of getting physical access into the building. Does that all have to be looked at again?
So I'm really, really wary of that. A critical aspect of our democracy is that that everybody can hold our democratic representatives to account and indeed go and engage with them, and that they get the support they believe they need, whatever um, their attitudes, their policies, their thinking is. And so Parliament has always been a space where both in the physical domain and in the virtual domain, we've had to be pretty open with the security. As a result, high classification material is not handled in Parliament, it's handled elsewhere. And there are special arrangements for that. So I'm very wary of that argument because we could, when attempting to defend our democracy, actually undermine the very openness which is at the core of it.
And Patty, what is the balance to be struck in terms of our political and trading relationship with China? We obviously know that there's lots of sensitivities in terms of security issues, in terms of China as a sort of, potentially hostile state, human rights issues. But against that, there's also a real desire for British businesses to have good relations with China, to have good flow of trade and commerce, between each country looking for investment. How does Britain strike the right balance, particularly in a post-Brexit world?
Well, I think a critical element is that where we trust, we verify. And so, starting at the end of the process that, in a sense, I had some role in when I was in government service, the intelligence and security aspect, a critical element is that we are really capable and we really understand what the Chinese are about. People often focus on vetting or somehow preventative measures, and the reality is you need a composite when you engage, when you let people into a space like Parliament or you allow them access to material. That's about a security culture. That is about vetting, but it's also about having your own capabilities so you know what the adversary is doing and you know the secret and hidden and undisclosed aspects of what they're doing. I very much admired, I know this may surprise you, and it's not part of the current public discourse, but I very much admired the way that George Osborne thought about this when he was Chancellor, because I can remember a conversation with him, and I hope he doesn't mind me breaching this confidence. It was, I'm not breaching it, but it was kind of in an informal setting, we were talking about the way in which we needed to resource our national security capabilities. And he said, look, a vital enabler of an open engagement with China is really strong national security capabilities. So that when it gets to the difficult areas, we are capable, we can perceive, we can counter, both clearly, God forbid, if we get, to the states intervening in other states' affairs or to indeed acts of war. Clearly that's true, but also, frankly, in this kind of hybrid warfare and tense relationship, dare I say it, coldish war that we find ourselves in now. So that's a really important element. That taken as given, which it often isn't, but that taken as given, it then seems to me absolutely vital, not only in our trading interests, but actually given our history as a country and our aspirations and our moral aspirations, our aspirations in development, that we engage with, a quarter of the world's population, that we applaud many of them coming out of poverty, and we relish the commercial partnerships that are possible with them, but always mindful of our national interests and not being played.